Leo Ramirez's passion job is editing Groovy Cat, a cat care website. Leo Ramirez's passion job is editing Groovy Cat, a cat care website, but his main job is very different. His main job is very different. Coordinating inspections for a crane company in Florida, US. For a crane company in Florida, US. Is there that he sometimes feels frustrated as a 47-year-old employee without children? Is there that he sometimes feels frustrated as a 47-year-old employee without children? It's a very family-oriented workplace. Family-oriented workplace. He explains. With frequent social events like employee picnics and parties. With frequent social events like employee picnics and parties. These are supposed to be fun occasion. These are supposed to be fun occasion, but they can be dispiriting for him. But they can be dispiriting for him. My coworker will make me feel guilty unintentionally, I'm sure, into staying those days later than everyone else. My coworkers will make me feel guilty unintentionally, I am sure, into staying those days later than everyone else. While everyone else has that excuse to be unable to make it in because they have families and kids to prepare with. While everyone else has that excuse to be unable to make it in because they have families and kids to prepare with. Ramirez reports that his colleagues say things like, "Come on, Leo, you know, if you had kids or anything, we would let you take the extra time you needed." Ramirez reports that his colleagues say things like, come on, Leo, you know, if you had kids or anything, we would let you take the extra time you needed. Yet, when Ramirez and his lifelong best friend married earlier this year, when Ramirez and his lifelong best friend married earlier this year, his manager shouldn't let him leave 2 hours early for last-minute wedding prep on Friday before the wedding. His managers wouldn't let him leave 2 hours early for last-minute wedding prep on the Friday before the wedding. Ramirez is sympathetic to patients' needs. Ramirez is sympathetic to patients' needs. Me having to get my teens worked on is never going to be as important as someone's kid being hurt. Me having to get my teeth worked on is never going to be as important as someone's kid being hurt. I completely understand that. He's even happy to work on holidays so that his colleagues with kids can have uninterrupted family time as Christmas and Thanksgiving. He's even happy to work on holidays so that his colleagues with kids can have uninterrupted family time and Christmas and Thanksgiving. For instance, but it can recall that I have been asked to pick up the supervisor on call responsibility for others on multiple weekends when it should have been their turn to do so. But it can rankle that I have been asked to pick up the supervisor on call responsibility for others on multiple weekends when it should have been their turn to do so. Many employees without kids have similar stories. Many employees without kids have similar stories. They understand that it can be incredibly challenging for their colleagues to juggle paid work. They understand that it can be incredibly challenging for their colleagues to juggle paid work, parenting, and other responsibilities. Particularly during a global pandemic and especially in places without strong governmental support for parents. Particularly during a global pandemic and especially in places without strong governmental support for parents. But they don't want to be taken for granted. They don't want to be taken for granted. Ultimately, it's up to employees to ensure balanced work roles and respect for everyone's work-life balance. Ultimately, is up to employers to ensure balanced work roles and respect for everyone's work-life balance. So that resentment doesn't fester among people based on their parenting status. Resentment doesn't fester among people based on their parenting status. Despite their growing numbers and the obvious advantage of having more time to devote their careers, people without children still feel they faced certain barriers at work. Despite their growing number and the obvious advantage of having more time to devote their careers, people without children still feel they face certain barriers at work. People without children still feel they faced certain barriers at work. Some report being promoted more slowly and denied raises because their managers think that only working parents needed extra money. Some report being promoted more slowly or denied raises because their managers think that only working parents needed extra money. Flexible work policies have often been applied to parents first, such as the UK's right to request permanent flexible work. Flexible work policies have often been applied to parents first, such as the UK's right to request permanent flexible work, such as the UK's right to request permanent flexible work. Historically, all of these provisions were for parents and careers initially, and some people don't know that that's changed. Historically, all of these provisions were for parents and careers initially, and some people don't know that that's changed. Says Crystal Watkinson. Crystal Wilkinson, a lecturer on human resources management at Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK, who focuses on family and well-being at work. A lecturer on human resources management at Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK, who focuses on family and well-being at work, and has researched employees who live alone, and has researched employees who live alone. This unfamiliarity with the law can make non-parents reluctant to request flexibility or other changes at work. This unfamiliarity with the law can make non-parents reluctant to request flexibility or other changes at work. Like Ramirez, many non-parents may be expected to work awkward shifts and holidays. Like Ramirez, many non-parents may be expected to work awkward shifts and holidays, to have more long overtime, and change work locations. Because because of the assumption that they have fewer important personal commitments. Because of the assumption that they have fewer important personal commitments. A recent discrimination lawsuit that was dismissed in August highlighted these issues. A recent discrimination lawsuit that was dismissed in August highlighted these issues. When a UK-based lawyer declined to relocate to her company's Swiss head office. When a UK-based lawyer declined to relocate to her company's Swiss head office. Company's Swiss head office. Due to personal reasons, her manager responded, "What personal reasons? You are not married, you don't have children, and you do not have a boyfriend." Due to personal reasons, her manager responded, "What happened? What personal reason?" You are not married. You are not married. You don't have children. You don't have children, and you do not have a boyfriend. Measures like this may be when managers like this may be demanding toward non-parents but understanding toward parents. Measures like this may be demanding toward non-parents but understanding toward parents if they respect that. If they respect their working parents might have to leave work early to pick up the kids from school. Or take time off when they can't arrange childcare. or take time off when they can't arrange childcare. When they can't arrange childcare, but still the work has to be done. Someone's got to pick up, says Wilkinson. But still the work has to be done. Someone's got to pick it up, says Wilkinson. The implicit bias is that child-related reasons for being unavailable are more varied, Rachel. Sometimes this expectation is implicit. Sometimes this expectation is explicit, but other times the messaging and shifting of workloads are more suitable. It wasn't even sometimes that they were explicitly asked to do it. It wasn't even sometimes that they were explicitly asked to do it. Wilkinson says of some of her solo living interviews. Says of some of her solo living interviews. It was like, well, somebody's got to lock up the shop at the pharmacy at the end of the day and she's got to go, so I just end up doing it. It was like, well, somebody's got to lock up the shop at the pharmacy at the end of the day, and she's got to go, so I just end up doing it. And she's got to go, so I just end up doing it. The hidden pressures on non-parents working with parents. The similar things can often take a toll on non-parents, who are often treated as if their hobbies, relationships, and responsibilities are trivial compared to being a parent. The similar things can often take a toll on non-parents who are often treated as if their hobbies, relationships, and responsibilities are trivial compared to being a parent. This can lead many employees without kids to hide or feel ashamed about their lives outside work, despite many women without children especially using their time outside work to volunteer or care for others. This can lead many employees without kids to hide or feel ashamed about their lives outside work, despite many women without children especially using their time outside work to volunteer or care for others. Even simple comments presuming that most people have families can sting, making non-parents feel invisible. Even simple comments presuming that most people have families can sting, making non-parents feel invisible. Cheryl, 33-year-old creative director in Barcelona, who doesn't have kids, works for a remote agency where she feels non-parents have generally been expected to make themselves more available. Rachel, 33-year-old creative director in Barcelona, who doesn't have kids, works for a remote AD agency where she feels non-parents have generally been generally been expected to make themselves more available. The workload imbalance was most obvious in our team's availability and personal hours. I noticed subtle biases like meetings ending on time for the parents to pick up their child for school, but going over when a childless employee had an obligation. I noticed subtle biases like meetings ending on time for the parents to pick up their child from school, but going over when a childless employee had an obligation, explains Rachel. Whose surname is being withheld for professional concerns. The implicit bias is that child-related reasons for being unavailable are more valid. Implicit bias is that child-related reasons for being unavailable are more varied. One irony is that expecting non-parents to work long and late inhibits them from forming families. One irony is that expecting non-parents to work long and late inhibits them from forming families. If that's what they want. Wilkinson calls the really problematic, especially for the people that were living alone but didn't want to be living alone. Wilkinson calls this really problematic, especially for the people that were living alone but didn't want to be living alone and were trying to develop relationships because that's the stuff that gets in the way of being able to go on a date or to be developing partnerships, but didn't want to be living alone and trying to develop relationships, because that's the stuff that gets in the way. Because that's the stuff that gets in the way of being able to go on a date or to be developing partnerships. It's also hard on people undergoing complex fertility treatments. It's also hard on people undergoing complex fertility treatments, who might need flexibility for this, but feel that their managers shouldn't understand. One result of slides, both big and small, may be family-friendly Bangladesh. One result of slides, both big and small, may be family friendly Bangladesh, or indignation at the perceived unfairness of workplace policies that favor parents. During the pandemic, this backlash has been especially evident at tech companies like Facebook, where employees have been tussling over policies such as generous leave for parents. During the pandemic, this backlash has been especially evident at tech companies like Facebook and where employees have been tussling over policies such as generous leave for parents, and sometimes even naming and shaming working parents they believe are, and sometimes even naming and shaming working parents they believe are underperforming, but across sectors people have been getting angrier about the parent-non-parent divide. Across sectors, people have been getting angrier about the parents non-parent divide. Listening to those without kids, it can be challenging for employees to mediate between the different perceptions of parents that come up between parents and non-parents. It can be challenging for employees to mediate between the different perceptions of fairness that come up between parents and non-parents. One option is to remove the pressures on staff to justify their need for time off. One option is to remove the pressure on staff to justify their need for time off. That's why Reuters and agency decided to remove explanation for employees out of office messages. That's why Reuters and agency decided to remove explanation from employees out of office messages. She explained, if you need to be offline from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you need to be offline from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Great. It shouldn't matter if it's to take your kid to the doctor or yourself to a dinner party. Luanas, a media researcher at the University of Huddersfield, UK, as well as co-director of Share My Telejob, provides a counterpoint to this from her experience of the TV production industry. Luan asked a media researcher at the University of Huddersfield UK, as well as co-director of Share My Telejob, provides a counterpoint to this from her experience of the TV production industry, which demands long hours and short notice. Ust believes in living loudly, employees of all genders feeling uncomfortable, leaving work at a reasonable hour without hiding their parents' status or say their exercise routines. Ust believes in living loudly, employees of all genders feeling comfortable leaving work at a reasonable hour without hiding their parenting status or say their exercise routine. It should be up to employers to provide an environment where people can live and go to yoga class. It should be up to employers to provide an environment where people can leave and go to a yoga class. Says the host. For example, with managers setting the tone from the top, it has to be allowed through the company culture. With managers setting the tone from the top, it has to be allowed through the company culture. It shouldn't really be down to individuals. Really be down to individuals. Also points to need for collective action to challenge unfairness. Also points to need for collective action to challenge unfairness. Whether there's freelancers sharing rights of staff or unionizing. Whether there's freelancers sharing rates or staff unionizing. I have been asked to pick up the supervisor on call responsibility for others on multiple weekends when it should have been their turn to do so. Leo Ramirez. Good managers don't overwork their staff, whatever their family circumstances. Good managers don't overwork their staff. Whatever their family circumstances. They find alternatives to filling the work onto solo living employees. They find alternatives to filling the work onto solo living employees. During the pandemic, there were organizations that have released that the workload of everyone is going to go up. During the pandemic, there were organizations that have released that the workload of everyone is going to go up. Points out Wilkinson. So can we get more resources in? Can you get more bodies in? Or strip away any non-essential, non-urgent work? So can you get more resources in? Can you get more bodies in? Or strip away any non-essential, non-urgent work. The tension is between non-parents and their employers. The tension is between non-parents and their employers. She emphasizes not between non-parents and parents. She emphasizes not between non-parents and parents. Consistently in all my research, it's not been the case that childless employees resent parental courageous. Consistently in all my research, it's not been the case that childless employees resent parental courageous. They don't think that parents deserve any rest. They just think that their own psychological contract with the organization is the issue. They just think that their own psychological contract with organization is the issue. It may sound simplistic. But just listening properly is the beginning of everything. This group are not being thought about. This group are not being thought about. Wilkinson says of workers without children who are often grateful just to be asked about their experiences. Wilkinson says of workers without children who are often grateful just to be asked about their experiences. As child-free Ken Robert Ramirez comments, it's nice to vent about this for once without the fear of crashing with my coworkers about it. As child Ken Robert Ramirez comments, it's nice to vent about this for once without the fear of clashing with my co-worker about it. Maybe you can't accommodate everything that they want, but kind of accommodate when you can and think about it and give them a reason if you can't. Maybe you can't accommodate everything that you want, that they want, but kind of accommodate when you can think about it and give them a reason if you can't. Wilkinson says of non-parents' desire to be heard. Wilkinson says of non-parents' desire to be heard. It's about communications at the end of the day, and at the end there's seeming to be a fair process. It's about communications at the end of the day, and at the end there's seeming to be a fair process.